Hey guys, I'm Estefania Rebellan here with Breezeway Productions at Politicon 2018 at the peak of one of the most important midterm elections in history of the United States. We're here talking to candidates, panelists, exhibitionists. We're here talking on the ground with the people that are coming to Politicon and finding out what brought them to Politicon, what is important to them in this midterm election, inviting voters to come out and vote. And we're talking about things that are no longer in mainstream media, things like Puerto Rico, things like why we should care about the homelessness. There are so many critical factors to this Politicon, and we're bringing you an insider look. So don't go anywhere and catch up with us.
All right, we are here in downtown Los Angeles at Politicon, and I have with us
Phoenix Goodman, Public Bank LA.
All right, Phoenix, a lot of exciting things happening here in LA. Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen on November 6th.
On November 6th, the citizens of Los Angeles are going to have the opportunity to vote to create the nation's first municipal public bank, which is revolutionary. It hasn't existed before. And if this passes, we're going to have a bank that's owned by the people, accountable to the people, investing in the local community instead of to Wells Fargo, which invests in private prisons, oil pipelines, opens up fraudulent accounts. We want to keep that money in-house, and this is our opportunity to take advantage of that.
All right, so that's going to be Measure B, B like a boy. And tell us what led us to Measure B.
Yeah. Measure B began because we first wanted to encourage Los Angeles City to divest from Wells Fargo, to move their money out after we found out they were investing in the Dakota Access Pipeline in solidarity with Standing Rock.
And that actually happened, right? Los Angeles divested from Wells Fargo. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a long fight of months of constant lobbying City Hall and grassroots organizing and hitting the streets and spreading the word about that. We put the pressure on. They did vote at that time to bar Wells Fargo from future contracts, but what we discovered in that process is because Los Angeles has such a large portfolio, the only banks that would be capable of picking up that potential contract would be the other big banks on Wall Street. So it would be only a symbolic victory, and the only real victory, the only real divestment that was on the table was to not even go from one Wall Street bank to another, but to create our own bank.
Now, the biggest challenge for advocates for public banking is explaining what public banking is, because most of the public out there have no idea what public banking is. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about, summarize it and tell us a little bit on what is public banking? What the public banking will do for Los Angeles?
Yeah. This is what private banking is private banking is banking that is owned by private shareholders whose only goal is quarterly profits. That's it. Public banking is banking where we, the people, are the shareholders. So what we want is the city of Los Angeles to own the bank on behalf of the common people. And what we want is this bank to be transparent and accountable. This way we have a banking system that can be used for a force of good. Right now it's used for a force of private profit, and that's why they invest in all the bad things that we know they invest in. This way we can turn it into a people's bank for the people.
So pretty much it's public versus private. Private is for profit, public is for the good of the public. Yeah. Public is for the good of the public. Again, has this happened anywhere else? Is there anywhere else that this is happening?
There is one bank that currently exists in the United States that is a public bank. It is in North Dakota. They've had it for 100 years, almost exactly 100 years. This bank is well run. They do have profits, but the profits are public profits rather than private profits. What this means is that they're able to deposit some of those profits back into the general fund, which means that it produces income for the state, and they use that money that they make to reinvest into their local communities. We want in Los Angeles to create the very first municipal public bank, which is a bank owned by the city of Los Angeles. That has never existed before. So this takes all the benefits of public banking and it adds an extra benefit to that: localism, local determination.
What are some of the local benefits that a public bank will bring to Los Angeles?
Well, for example, affordable housing is very difficult to invest in if all you have is the private market, because it's simply more profitable for private developers to create housing that's expensive. That's where the profit's at. So by having a bank that can provide financing at more competitive rates to make affordable housing make more economic sense, you can spur that. You can also do the same with green energy development. You can do the same with general infrastructure development that the city of Los Angeles needs. This way you can actually make banking an ally of the city, and at the same time, the profits of the bank would be recaptured by the city instead of extracted off to Wall Street.
Right. I mean, Los Angeles pays somewhere upwards, beyond upwards, really, $170 million just on bank fees alone. Is that right?
Yeah, that's only the fees. $175 million is what we paid in 2017. In interest, we paid $1.1 billion, meaning that we pay over $1.2 billion altogether to Wall Street firms. If we can create our own bank, we save on those fees, and then the loans that we have can get refinanced, and then the interest that we pay becomes profit for ourselves, and then the profit would then be reinvested into developing the local community instead of going to a banker's, next yacht or into their offshore private tax haven.
Right, into somebody's pocket, Wall Street, and that money never returns to us. But in this case, because we don't have to borrow from Wall Street, it stays with us, and we can reinvest it back into our communities.
Exactly.
That means small businesses can benefit by this.
Exactly. It's our money, it's our values, it's our bank. That's our logo, our slogan. What we want ultimately is to take this immense power that banks have. Banks are powerful. They create money. They determine where in our economy the money flows. So who should have the power over that responsibility to society? Should it be people that have an interest to extract wealth, or should it be people who have a duty to the common good? To us, it's a no-brainer. It should be to those that have the duty to the common good to have the power over banking.
Right. Now, something very interesting, because when the financial crisis hit, we saw that it devastated all kinds of communities and cities, and some of them still have not recovered. I mean, people are still affected by it. What is interesting is that the Bank of North Dakota, or the state of North Dakota, was the only state of the union that was not affected by the financial crisis because their money was not on Wall Street.
Right. Wall Street firms play a very complex casino game. That's really all it is. They take deposits, sure, but they take their investments and they speculate on the markets. They create derivatives. They have very complex investment schemes that ultimately create a lot of risk. And because they know they will get bailed out by the public taxpayer, they have the insurance policy from the public sector anyways. So if the public sector is insuring Wall Street with bailouts, why not just cut them out altogether and then create a banking system that doesn't play casino, but instead invests prudently in local businesses, in the real economy?
How do you finance a public bank?
We will raise capital. There are multiple sources that have been identified. The business plan that will come out after Charter Amendment B passes will delineate the exact way that will happen, but options have been discussed, including raising some money from the general fund and also creating general obligation bonds to raise initial capital. Because this would be a profitable entity, ultimately that money would be paid back and then produce further profits beyond that forever.
Right. And the fact that you're no longer paying interest into Wall Street,
right,
and all these fees, so you save a lot of savings. Measure B, November 6th, what do we tell the voters? Now, this is not automatically creating a bank, but it's just the first step forward.
This is important to understand. Some people have some concerns that, how do we know this is going to be good? Well, the truth is all this does is it allows it to be created legally. It does not mandate that the bank exists. So this is the very first step in removing the very first legal barrier. Following this step must be a feasibility study, a business plan, laws changed at the state level. All throughout this process, the public will have oversight into this process to make sure that the bank is created in a way that will manage the money in a responsible way, and also create a charter that will include social responsibility and public oversight and accountability into the bank. And that's going to be put in after Charter Amendment B passes. But if we don't pass Charter Amendment B, then we are guaranteed with 100% certainty to have the status quo, which is Wells Fargo extracting $1.2 billion a year out of our community.
Well done. Well, thank you again, and get out and vote November 6th. Measure B, yes on B. Yes on public banking.